Oh, sir, got one.
Good evening, everybody. It's 5 o'clock. Thank you for attending this regular meeting of the Temple City Council for Thursday, January 16th, 2020. Please rise. I don't see, is Roscoe here? Please rise as Pastor Paul Alexander. Is he here? Yep, very good. From 8th Street Baptist Church leads us in the invocation, followed by our pledge, which will be led by Jason Deckman, a City of Temple planner. Mr. Alexander.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, Creator in the heavens and the earth, you said if we acknowledge you in all our ways, you will direct our path. Now, Lord, we seek your guidance and direction, and these, your officers, carry out the interests of this city. We're thankful for the leaders of this fine city. We're asking that you give them your continued guidance and wisdom to carry out the obligations of this city. We ask your favor, blessings upon the leaders, community, and all of its citizens in the city of Temple. Thank you for your blessings and that you bestow each and every one of us. Thank you for your grace and thank you for your mercy in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Before we start the pledge, I spoke with the mayor earlier today. I'd like to share something with everyone tonight, something I'm very proud to announce. In 2012, I was deployed with the U.S. Army Reserves to Afghanistan, training the Afghan Army. Worked with a number of linguist interpreters. One of them, a gentleman named Abdul Hamidi, they nicknamed him Fred. I helped him get his visa. He came to America, came to the States in 2014. Last year took his citizenship test, and I'm proud to say, as of this morning, he took the oath and became a United States citizen. So in honor of my brother, my friend Fred, I ask you to join me as we pledge allegiance to the flag.
Very good.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander and Mr. Deckman. We've reached the time on our agenda for public comments. Citizens who desire to address the council on any matter may do so. As long as you've signed up prior to this meeting, public comments will be received during this portion of the meeting, and we ask that you please limit those comments to no more than 3 minutes. We do have a few folks that have signed up. First is Ms. Bobby Thompson.
Right here. And
Are you going to bring Ms. Davis?
we would like to do it together.
That'd be great. Does that mean you get 6 minutes?
Whatever you say, we'll get it.
Yes, ma'am. Whatever you need.
Good evening. Mayor Davis, Judy Morales, council members. We love East Temple, and so you know that's what we're gonna talk about.
Ms. Thompson, please be sure and state, just for the record, for y'all's.
Bobby Thompson, 904 Henderson Street, his name and address.
Minister Carlotta Davis, 1505 East Avenue D.
Thank y'all.
I want to state today that I had some concerns about things that are in the community. I have grandchildren that get on the bus stop on the corner of 18th and Avenue B, and it'd be like 6-something in the morning, and there's a lot of weeds right there on that corner. And there's also a molestation, child molestation home on Avenue A, and there have been men hanging out around that bus stop, and we have to walk and look at them, you know. So I wanted to see if we can get some police patrolling around that area. And also, I'm legally blind, and I would like to see if I could get a sign on somewhere in the 14th to the 1500 of East Avenue D to make people aware of that, because I walk sometimes and I don't want to get hit, you know. People think I can see them that good and I can't. So we want to get a sign that says, beware of the blind, and also children playing. I have a lot of grandkids and kids in the neighborhood, and they just speed up and down that block. And right there on the corner of 26th Street and Avenue D, we would like to get a yield sign or a stop sign or some kind of sign, because A lot of time people just swerve around that corner, and I've almost been hit, riding with other people because they don't stop. So if we could get a yield sign or a stop sign. And also, what was the other one?
You want me to finish from here? Okay. On 26th Street, off of Avenue 8 and Avenue F there, I've already reported this. There are people living in tents on the ground in trees. They had a little door up there too, with some wire on it. And we're wondering why these people living inside of these trees. And some of these are not tents, they're just some rags and they live in there. And it's between 10 and 15 people there. Also, we was wanting to know, could there be like some black businesses brought in Temple to keep our young men and women out of trouble, like ladies of the night, drug dealers, or, like a Brookshire Brothers, beauty store, Tom Thumb, or small mall strip area, or Fiesta. And she was telling me there is a lady that's on the bus system, and there's no bus running out there, and she's trying to get to dialysis, and she's not able to get there.
She stay out on Midway, and the bus system don't go to Midway, and we have to be there at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm on dialysis also, and she has a hard time and has to miss because the bus system only goes 2 miles past where, like, Walmart. It's a little past Walmart on 31st, but it doesn't go all the way to Midway. So we were seeing if we can't just get all of Bell County helped by the HOP Center, by the HOP, the bus system.
Ms. Davis?
Yes, sir.
Do you have help at home with your trash, with rolling your receptacle out to the street or anything like that?
No, sir.
Do you need that?
I didn't know you could get that.
Yeah.
Ms. Hendrick?
Oh, yes, sir, that would be nice.
We'll have somebody in touch with you guys about all of that.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
you bet. Thank y'all.
Thank you for your time.
Next on the list, we have Tony, is it Salute? Saluto?
I'm going to wait until possibly on ordinance 5.
Okay, we can do that. Mr. Lytle?
Council members, Mayor, my name is Alan Lytle. I live at 504B Paseo del Plata here in Temple. I'm here tonight because on December 31st, New Year's Eve, my neighbor's yard was flooded. He panicked and I explained to him how to turn the water off, and he reached in there and swears that he got shocked. So within 3 minutes, the fire department was there, and those nice young gentlemen got the water turned off and figured out it's still leaking. So within 30 minutes, the water department came out and scheduled how to get that fixed and spent their whole New Year's Eve fixing a water leak in mud and cold rather than enjoying it with their families. And so I just wanted to tell you that I really appreciate the dedication that our employees have. The other thing I'd like to mention is I got the opportunity to be a public observer of our Public Safety Advisory Council Tuesday and learned a very depressing fact. We only have, I think it's 159 police officers in a town of over 50,000 people. When we do get around to getting a new police chief, and he comes and asks you for more officers and more cars, please give him every consideration. We need more. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lytle. Next on the list is Ms. Wilson.
Didn't know I was supposed to speak.
Well, do you have anything you need to say?
Yes.
If you would like to speak, you're welcome to. I kind of put her on the spot, didn't I?
Somebody purchased a signage.
Yeah.
I'm speaking in behalf of Bentwood subdivision.
Would you mind stating your name and address for the record?
Maxine Wilson, 2623 Blue Meadow Drive. And I'm speaking on behalf of our neighborhood. And the concern is that Bella Terra owners are building houses adjacent to our subdivision. Their initial buildings cut 2 streets into our subdivision for their traffic to go out to 31st Street. They do have one entrance. It has increased the traffic in our neighborhood of trucks that are building, carrying supplies, and we will see some great increase in our traffic when their houses are built. They want to increase the size of their building area, which they want an increase of 102 acres to build more houses. We are concerned about the amount of traffic that's going to increase in our subdivision and want to make sure that they don't cut another road into our subdivision. We have one entrance, single car entrance in and out. We would appreciate your consideration of not approving their petition to change their property from 102 agricultural acres to rezoning it for residential purposes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, let's move on to the consent agenda. All items listed under this section are considered to be routine by the City Council and may be enacted in one motion. If discussion is desired by the council, any item, I'm forgetting something. Sorry, I skipped right over this. I'm sorry, Ms. Smith. We'll move on to item 3, and that is recognition of the city manager, Bryn Myers, has been named Leader of the Year by the American City and County Magazine for her visionary thinking, bold leadership, and impressive accomplishments on behalf of the City of Temple in 2019, and I almost skipped right over that.
That's all right.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. Each of you have a copy of the January edition of the American City and County Magazine in front of you. If you turn to page 20, you will see an amazing spread, which we also have up here for anyone that doesn't have a copy of the magazine. You can see that as well. Each year, American City and County Magazine accepts nominations from across the nation for public servants who have dedicated their lives to bettering their communities. This award is based on a leader's accomplishments and the impact those actions have on the community. That's when we discovered this award nomination, we couldn't think of anyone else more deserving than Bryn Myers. Bryn made history, as you all know, in 2018 when she was named City of Temple's first female city manager. She leads by example every day, urging city employees to be better and do better for their community. There is nothing that Bryn won't accomplish once she sets her mind to it. She performs her job at an exemplary level, continues to demonstrate an extraordinary commitment to her staff, family, community, and the entire City of Temple. Under Bryn's direction, the City of Temple knows we want to be a place that people will love to call home. For her visionary thinking, bold leadership, impressive accomplishments, American City and County named Bryn their 2019 Leader of the Year. So from all of us at the City of Temple, Bryn, congratulations.
Myers, what do you have to say?
I was talking to Shane with the Telegram this morning. We were visiting about the last 2 years since you all have given me the opportunity to be your city manager here, and I told him that I've always wanted to be a city manager. It's something that I've been aspiring to for my entire career, and I never imagined that I would have the opportunity to be the city manager in Temple. I really didn't. The community that I was born in, that I consider my home, and it's just, sometimes I just have to step back and say, how did I get to be so lucky to do a job I love in a community that I love? And I thank the city council for taking a chance on a 33-year-old. And I thank the team that we have here at the city. You have the best staff. You really do. I mean, this team, from the department heads all the way down, are just fantastic, and they make doing this job, they make me look better than I am, and they make it fun to be here, and I'm just, I feel that there's so much potential and excitement, and I'm just excited for what's coming in the future. Temple is, as we talk about a lot, as we've gone through our strategic planning process, Temple's already a great place. It's the place that I've chosen as my home, my family's chosen as our home, y'all have chosen as your home, and so we're already a great city, and we're just ready to take it to the next level. And I'm thankful for the opportunity to be here with you and work alongside you and staff and get to be a part of it. And I want to say a special thank you also to Aaron and Heather and Lori, who I know spent their time and effort on nominating me for this award. They completely surprised me, and I appreciate them. Thank you.
Congratulations. If I may, just real quickly, I know, Judy, I know that you were on the council whenever we appointed Ms. Myers. Susan, were you? Mm-hmm. So we went through the hiring process. You know, we hired an outside firm. We got nationwide applicants, and the more time we spent going through those applicants, the more we realized that the person that we really needed to hire was already on staff. So, you know, we went through this big search, spent some of your money, and we had just what we needed. And you have proven us right, and we thank you for that. You've done a great job. Thank y'all. Okay, now we will move on to consent agenda. As I said before, all items listed under this section are considered routine by the city council and may be enacted in one motion. Council, are there any items on the agenda that you would like to pull for special consideration? Everybody's okay? Okay, then we will, I'll accept a motion to approve the consent agenda items which are items 4A through 4J.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Walker. We have a second by Mr. Williams. And I will accept a, I'm sorry, let's please vote on that. Sorry.
Councilmember Long.
Aye.
Councilmember Walker.
Aye.
Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Morales.
Aye.
Mayor Davis.
Aye. Moving on to item 5, which is the first reading and a public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance authorizing a rezoning from agriculture zoning district to planned development single family 1 on 102.290 plus or minus acres with the site development plan located at 5900 South 31st Street for a proposed extension of the Bella Terra neighborhood. Mr. Deckman.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. This is the first reading for the planned development rezoning of Bella Terra Phases 2 and 3. Second reading will take place on February 5th and was previously addressed by Planning and Zoning Commission on December 3rd. So let's bring you into the vicinity of this development. You'll see it's west of 31st Street, just north of 93, near the Georgetown Railroad. It's on the edge of the city limits, so it does border some land in the extraterritorial jurisdiction. If you'll look at my aerial photo, you'll see that the land is currently not developed. It's mostly wooded or open prairie grasses. Again, you can see the right-of-way for the Georgetown Railroad, the lots for Phase 1 that are currently under construction. The Bentwood neighborhood is to the north, and the Burton Lane neighborhood over here to the west. So the background is that the applicant is requesting a planned development rezoning, agrees to the conditions. Phase 1 is currently in progress. We're looking at 102.290 acres to be rezoned for phases 2 and 3. Part of this development does go into the ETJ, a little over 5 acres, that won't be zoned, but is part of the development. So you see there's a few lots right over here off this top corner. We're looking at 258 lots total. This area has been requested for rezoning in the past. So there was 2 cases previously. In 2017, the applicant requested SF2 zoning for phases 2 and 3, not a planned development, just the straight zoning. P&Z had a split vote. There was a motion to recommend approval. When the case was brought to City Council, there was a motion that failed for lack of a second, and that was August 2017. It came back in 2018. They requested a SF1 zoning. Staff at that time recommended a planned development with some conditions to address some of the challenges of this site. The applicant chose to go ahead with the SF1 zoning. P&Z voted against the approval in May of 2018, and the request was withdrawn prior to the request going to council. So here we are. This is the 3rd time, and we are looking at a planned development, so there will be some conditions later. But the first thing I want to address that has been the topic of discussion, both from the public, phone calls and letters, and during the P&Z meeting, is the connectivity and the street projections. So there's a number of existing and proposed connections. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work east to west from 31st Street. There's an existing entrance there. In discussion with TxDOT, when this gets to the platting stage, TxDOT may want a TIA just to determine how that traffic is going to load onto 31st Street. There's 2 existing connections that connect to the Bentonwood neighborhood at High Meadow and Legacy Oaks. There is a stub out from Bentonwood on Ellington that the applicant does not propose to construct a connection to, and staff supported that. I'll come back to this. There's a projection to the west to the ETJ off of a cul-de-sac, and a lot to be dedicated to the south that would cross over the Georgetown Railroad right-of-way. And if the property on the other side of that developed, then there would be the means for more connectivity to the south. For this connection on the north end, staff had worked with the developer and asked to meet our code that they show a connection to the north. This was shown to connect to Windcliff, which is a private drive. And during the planning and zoning meeting, the residents came out. This was discussed at length. The Planning and Zoning Commission made the recommendation to approve without the connection to Windcliff. So P&Z's recommendation is to not show this connection. There's 2 other existing connections or proposed that will provide the link between Phase 1 and Phase 2, shown in blue. So here's some more details on Phase 2. So we've discussed Windcliff. P&Z recommended not showing that connection. This is the cul-de-sac connection that I discussed. There was another request during and shortly after the P&Z meeting from the residents of Burton Lane about emergency access. And this was something that had been shown in a previous iteration of the plan. They requested that it be added back in. It was discussed as a condition. P&Z did approve that. So the applicant will dedicate a lot for the construction of a 20-foot fire lane. The residents of Burton Lane will construct the click-to-enter gate, and the applicant will construct the fence behind the lots that would tie into that gate. That being said, this is not a public street. This is an emergency access lane, a fire lane. Emergency responders have a device that they can get through if there's a fire, if there's some type of emergency. If folks needed to depart that neighborhood, responders could open that. So it gives an escape hatch, so to speak. It's not a public street, but it does provide some public safety reassurance that folks won't be trapped in a large subdivision, or that first responders may not be able to reach the site of an emergency. So that was included as a condition with the planning and zoning recommendation. There's a sidewalk to be constructed along Pistoia, and a trail that will connect from the proposed park down to that Georgetown Railroad right-of-way. The park is going to be constructed in 2 phases, part of it in Phase 2 and part of it in Phase 3. So if you look, these renderings were provided by the applicant, showing that in Phase 2, they will construct a pool with some shaded areas, parking, and a fence around the pool. In Phase 3, they will construct some additional playground amenities, and a budget for those amenities is included in your packet. The trail that I mentioned earlier is shown here that will connect from that proposed park, would connect down to the lot to be dedicated for that street projection, and would allow the residents to have access to the Georgetown Trail when and if that is constructed. So the SF1 base zoning is part of the plan development, provided the comparison of some uses. The takeaway from the large table is that SF1 is primarily a residential use, and that is what's proposed for construction at this site. The proposed condition for the plan development, one of them, is changing the lot size from 7,500 square feet to 10,000 square feet, which effectively reduces the density of anything that would be constructed in this area. They've also asked for reduced side setbacks to match the SF2 zoning, and reduce that from 15 to 5 feet. So the future land use map designates this area suburban residential. You see there's agriculture rural in the ETJ area, suburban commercial to the south with the Legacy Ranch mixed-use development, and auto-urban residential designation to the north. So suburban residential is designed for mid-sized single-family lots. The PD condition for the larger lot size I discussed will ensure the lower density, so it is compliant with the future land use map. The zoning map, it's currently ag. Looking at some of the neighboring zonings, Belterra Phase 1 is SF2, which is a more dense zoning. The Bentwood neighborhood to the north is zoned SF2 and SF1. One of the conditions on the PD SF1 is the same side setback reduction that the applicant has requested in this development. The Legacy Ranch development to the southeast that I mentioned earlier is a mixed use. There's a mix of residential and retail areas. The residential areas, you see the lots laid out on this corner here. These are also large lots in excess of 11,000, 12,000 feet. So they're larger lots that this development that's proposed would somewhat match that, as opposed to a smaller lot that might be allowed in SF1 zoning. It is compliant with the zoning map. The thoroughfare map. So there is a proposed minor arterial on the current thoroughfare plan that, because of the topography in that area, is challenging. It would be difficult and expensive to construct. However, the plan requires us to try to meet the intent of that plan and show the connection. And that was part of the street projections to the north and south, as well as the east and west. So the connectivity will be provided through the local streets in the development. There won't be an arterial constructed, but there will be the possibility for connection pending future development. So it's partially compliant. It meets the intent, but it does not construct that proposed minor arterial. It is compliant with the Trails Master Plan, however. I mentioned the Georgetown Railroad Trail to the south of Belterra. It is listed in our Trails Master Plan as a priority trail. The trail is shown on the site development plan that would connect from the park to the Georgetown Trail. I've included here a rendering of the Georgetown Trail application that was submitted to TxDOT for funding. So this is compliant with the Trails Master Plan. Utility map, there are currently no utilities in this proposed subdivision. They will be extended to 8-inch water and sewer lines from Phase 1. And any specifics of water, wastewater, and drainage, they would be addressed during the platting process. So it is compliant with the utility map. We do have some site photos showing the proposed area to be developed. You see, as I mentioned, that it's mostly prairie grass and some trees. So this is the northeast corner, as you see here on my telltale, the corner of Cecina and Modena Drive. This is looking north towards the Bentwood and Windcliff neighborhoods, and you'll see in some of the photos that you do see some roofs and homes through the trees. This is from the center of the area, just to give you a view of that you can see some of the neighboring homes, but it's currently open land. This is the approximate location, as near as I could guesstimate, of that proposed street projection to the Georgetown Railroad Trails. You see the railroad right away, and through the trees you do see some of the open terrain on the other side. I've included some photos of Phase 1 to give you an idea of what might be constructed in Phase 2 and 3. So you see homes are currently under construction here, as well as some homes that are still being constructed looking down Palamonte Drive. As part of the planned development, 57 notices were sent out to property owners within 200 feet. 4 courtesy notices were sent to adjacent properties in the ETJ. We received 4 notices back in disagreement, and those are shown by the D on your map. The newspaper printed notices of the public hearing on November 21st in accordance with state law and local ordinance. So planned development is a flexible overlay zoning district designed to respond to unique development proposals, special considerations, or land use by allowing evaluation of the surrounding areas through approval of development plan, and can be managed through applying different conditions. So the development plan and the binding site plan that would be approved, if this development is approved, that site plan would be binding and would be subject to the conditions as presented. So here are the conditions, and I won't force you to listen to me to read these verbatim. Number 1 is that there would be substantial compliance with the site plan as this moved forward through platting and construction. I mentioned the minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet, the trail and the sidewalk. There would be drainage detention areas required. There would be provision for future street extensions that staff had recommended and discussed with the applicant. The park areas, the pool, the side setbacks, allowing for a 15-foot front setback on cul-de-sacs and knuckles, and provision for that emergency access point from Burton Lane that I showed you. In terms of the compliance summary, we evaluate all planned developments rezoning against these 4 criteria. As you can see, it is compliant with all of them, with partial compliance with the thoroughfare plan. So staff recommends approval of the requested planned development rezoning from Ag to PDSF1 for the proposed extension Belterre, subject to the conditions that were presented. December 3rd meeting, Planning and Zoning Commission voted 5-0 to recommend approval with the exception of removing the street projection connecting to Windcliff Drive. So to clarify, they don't want it, the residents don't want it, and that was the recommendations to have that removed from the site plan. And that concludes my presentation. I'll stand by for any discussion or questions you may have.
Council?
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
Jason, could you go back, I think, 3 slides, conditions? I'm very appreciative of you getting the big X by Windcliff. Thank you very much. That's been long sought after. Why is that not on here as a condition?
That was something that we discussed with staff, city management, and city attorney, that these were the conditions that staff presented and P&Z voted on. They added the language to exclude Windcliff, so on recommendation from how do I want to say it? From our attorney, the legal interpretation was that language would go into the ordinance, but it doesn't get shown on the list of conditions. Am I explaining that right, or somebody want to jump in and rescue me?
So this slide represents, that's really loud. This slide represents the original conditions as proposed by staff. If you would like to if you want to ensure that the ordinance is approved without the Windcliff connection, you could simply make a motion that move for approval per P&Z's recommendation, which would include an additional condition being added to this list that would exclude the connection to Windcliff.
Yes, everything she said. I'll try to rephrase that. I'd like, beyond that, I'd like to have you talk a little bit more about the connectivity in Bentwood, because some of that connectivity in Bentwood was the way Bentwood was designed originally, before anybody who lives there now. Bentwood was laid out with those stub-in streets designed to have connectivity should further development occur, as is now being proposed. Am I correct about that?
That's correct. The applicant, whoever developed Bentwood, and I don't
Right.
know that off the top of my head, they did meet the city code to show those three projections.
So
When
from
we
the pro-
discussed it, we determined that the two connections that are there now provide the needed connectivity, that adding the third one at Ellington wouldn't solve any problems that we have. It would potentially upset some folks. It wouldn't necessarily improve the traffic. And the applicant also didn't want to show it for his ability to have the lots where he wanted. So we felt that really there was no need to show the connection to Ellington.
So said another way, there will not, based on staff recommendation and P and Z recommendation, there would be no additional connections other
That's-
than what's already existing into Bentwood. Is that correct,
That's
sir?
correct.
So what's,
Right.
obviously what's there is there.
Right.
But these phases would not add any additional connections.
Right, and what's there is what was planned many, many years ago when Bentwood was being designed and built.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. That's very clear. So when we come to motion time, we'll try to reconstruct that language. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else? This item is subject to a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this item may do so. Please step to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Nobody? Mr. Lytle.
My name is Alan Lytle, 504B Paseo del Plata. I travel 31st Street considerably, and the proposal apparently is not going to, as you said, add any more access out of an additional 260 some odd homes, which is probably somewhere in addition of 400 people getting out at 8 o'clock in the morning to go to work. 31st Street's dangerous as it is, without either traffic control of some form, signals, etc., or additional access to an outlet other than one outlet at 31st Street. I don't think this is going to be a viable, I don't know what to say, what else to say. And I think it's going to create more problems than we're really looking at. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I just want to reiterate the point that we've already been in discussion with TxDOT, let them know, that there's been some concerns. The applicant is also here, and as I understand it, they've been in touch with a transportation engineering company to analyze that, as well as contacting TxDOT. Lena, if you want to address that concern.
My name is Lena Shitze. I'm with Belton Engineering, and I'm the civil engineer on the project. So what Jason stated is correct.
Residents can hear you.
Okay. So, yes, we did contact TxDOT. We've been working with them. In fact, TxDOT is aware of the overall master plan, and we did engage Alliance Transportation Engineering to evaluate traffic throughout the development. And we will be working with them very closely during platting to address any concerns or comments they have.
Council, more questions for her? Okay, thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Dr. Jack Eberts, 5616 Wincliffe Drive, Temple resident for over 70 years. I've been in property owner in Wincliffe for 50 years. I want to commend both the P&Z and the council for trying to work through. This is a difficult situation. And I'll just leave you with some suggestions. Wincliffe was privately developed. It's a private road. We've had virtually no city support after 25 years of city annexation. GC developed this in 1968. I owned property since 1969. There is a solution long-term. It's fraught with difficulty. That's going to the south to 93. I know the railroad, I know the legal problems, but that needs to be something that is thought out carefully. I've been here a long time. Temple's my home, just like Bryn Mawr said, for 70 years. And I've watched it develop. And just to say again, I commend you. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr.
Anyone else? Council, any more thoughts or questions on this? Okay, and at this time, I'll close the public hearing and accept a motion on item number 5.
Mayor, I'd like to make the motion, and I'd like to include the language, and I need help with the language so that we get it right again.
I think if
City manager.
I think if you would move for approval per P&Z's recommendation, that will cover the conditions that Jason had on the screen, in addition to the exception of removing the street projection connecting to Windcliff Drive.
I move to approve. The conditions as appeared as Mr. Deckman showed them on the screen, with the addition of the closure or non-opening, the exception to the connectivity at Windcliff Drive. That motion is for item 5, as has been presented by the planning staff to us.
Second the motion.
We have a motion from Councilmember Long and a second from Councilmember Morales. Madam Secretary?
Councilmember Long.
Aye.
Councilmember Walker. Aye. Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Morales.
Aye.
Mayor Davis.
Aye. Moving on to item 6 is the first reading and a public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance authorizing a rezoning from 2-family and heavy industrial zoning district to planned development light industrial with a development and site plan approved on 1.339 plus or minus acres.
Great exit.
We'll wait. They're hugging it up back there. Sounds like a family reunion.
Tim, you lost your something you said.
We know how to clear a room.
Have a contentious project on the agenda.
Okay, so let me start over. Item 6 is the first reading and a public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance authorizing a rezoning from 2-family and heavy industrial zoning district to planned development light industrial with the development and site plan approval on 1.339 plus or minus acres, addressed as 708 South 57th Street. Mr. Baker.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. Okay, this is again a rezoning of approximately 1.3 acres. There is a counterpart subdivision plat. It's an administrative plat that is currently in review and is not anticipated to go to the Planning and Zoning Commission. So that is being finalized. So both the plat and the rezoning may proceed separately. They're not dependent on each other. So again, this property is on the north side of I-35 and is located here by the hatched area, and as you can see is vacant and undeveloped. This is a planned development, and as discussed in the previous item, will include a binding site plan. And that'll be attached to the rezoning ordinance as Exhibit A if it's approved. So in terms of the zoning, this is a proposed planned development with the light industrial base zoning. It is a down zoning from the existing heavy industrial, but also at the same time will intensify the zoning that is currently 2F. This is a compromise between the two zoning districts, and again would have the base zoning of light industrial. This also adds a needed transition between heavy industrial and the two-family, which was not provided during initial zoning. Also provides for consistency of the area and the property for the zoning throughout. The PD also allows conditions for adequate buffering and screening from the existing or for the existing single-family residential developments to the south. The property is designated as auto-urban mixed use under the future land use map and is intended as a hybrid designation. It's an area of mixing between residential and non-residential and allows such mixing to continue with the adequate buffering and screening in place. The conditions, proposed conditions of this planned development would accomplish that. There's also the presence of the railroad tracks and the existing industrial uses, which also supports the zoning and the future land use designation. So both water and sewer are available to the subject property. In terms of the buffering and screening, again, the graphic on the right-hand side is a graphic of the Exhibit A and would include a truck entrance and loading docks being limited to the north side of the property. The parking lot location will be on the south boundary of the site. 15-foot landscape buffer, tree preservation, and a 6-foot high privacy fence on the south boundary to help buffer, and a 10-foot landscape buffer, tree preservation, and the same height privacy fence on a portion of the east boundary that is adjacent to existing residential uses. So just a number of pictures showing specifically on-site. The property is vacant and undeveloped, and the images on the west are the Salmon's Golf Course. To the south is the existing residential uses, and in both the north and the east of the property are existing heavy industrial uses. So in terms of the differences between the light industrial and the heavy industrial, the main takeaway is that the proposed light industrial will limit some of those more intensive heavy industrial uses that are indicated, shown in this portion of the table. The uses that are highlighted in red are most likely, because of the size of the property, the type of uses that may be accommodated within the smaller lot. So 22 notices were sent out to property owners within 200 feet. 6 notices were returned in agreement, and no notices were returned in disagreement. So in terms of the compliance that staff uses, the criteria to review and analyze the request, all the criteria were in compliance. So staff recommends approval of the requested rezoning from 2F and heavy industrial to the planned development light industrial, subject to 12 conditions. The 15-foot wide buffer on the south boundary, the 10-foot wide buffer on the east boundary only where the residential uses abut the subject property. The minimum 6-foot high privacy fence on the south and east boundary, again abutting the residential property. Total area of buildings would not exceed 24,000 square feet. The truck and dock loading entrances would be on the north portion of the property, and those will be away from residential uses. Car parking would be provided in accordance with Section 7.5 of the UDC and would be on the south portion only of the property. The planned development would include all uses permitted or conditionally permitted in the base light industrial zoning district. Buildings would have windows, real or faux, and one of the following 5 elements, which would be primarily articulation and fenestration of such buildings. There would be no out storage that would be permitted. Prior to construction site plan approval, the development site plan will require review by the Development Review Committee with approval by the Director of Development and Planning. The Director of Planning and Development would also have approval of minor modifications to the development site plan, but significant changes would require review by the Planning and Zoning Commission and further come back to City Council if that was the case. So at the December 16th meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted 7-0 to approve per staff's recommendation. And that does conclude my presentation, and I'm available should you have any questions. You're welcome.
Council? This item is subject to a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this item may do so. Please step to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Being none, I'll close this public hearing and accept a motion on item 6.
I move for approval of the rezoning per the P and Z and staff recommendations, including the conditions of approval.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Councilmember Williams, a second by Councilmember Walker. Madam Secretary?
Councilmember Long.
Aye.
Councilmember Walker.
Aye.
Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Morales.
Aye.
Mayor Davis.
Aye. Item 7 is a first reading and a public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance authorizing amendments to the Temple Unified Development Code, Section 4.5.1, residential dimensional standards, single-family detached dwelling, to allow for a 20-foot minimum front yard setback in single-family 1 and single-family 2 zoning districts, and a 10-foot minimum side or corner yard setbacks for SF1 and SF2 and SF3 zoning districts. Ms. Barrett?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. For the third planning case on this evening's agenda, we're going to switch gears just a bit, and this is somewhat unusual in that it is a brief code amendment that only affects front and side setbacks in single-family detached dwelling standards. So it was basically an attempt by staff to clean up some discrepancies between common PD requested setbacks, and which actually have always been staff supported, and what the setback table for the base zoning district says. So it's very quick and minor. P&Z did hear this case on January 6th, and it's coming to you tonight in an attempt to streamline and get these all of our setbacks standardized across the board. Second reading is set for February 6th. So this is section 4.5.1 of the UDC, which discusses the setbacks in the various zoning districts. This would reduce the setback to 20 feet minimum from 25 feet minimum for single-family 1 and 2. Single-family 3 is already at a 15-foot minimum, so it would not adjust that at all. And then additionally, the side corner setbacks currently for single-family 1, 2, and 3 are 15 feet. And this is to propose reducing that to a 10-foot minimum. This matches our frequently recommended PD conditions and cleans up some confusion when plats come forward when the PD conditions and the developers are used to building one way, and so we're just trying to standardize those. There is an additional section in code that addresses side garages and carports that does require an 18-foot setback for the side entries. That is not, we're not proposing to change that at all. So this is what 4.5.2 consists of, and it is a chart. And as you can see, the minimum front yard setback columns for single-family 1 and 2, we're proposing 20 from 25, and the side corner yard setbacks, we're proposing 10 from the current 15-foot for single-family 1, single-family 2, and single-family 3. So staff is recommending this change as previously discussed, and the Planning and Zoning Commission voted at their meeting on January 6th to recommend approval per staff's recommendation. I'm available for any questions, should you have any.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett. Council, any comments?
How long have the 25-foot and 15-foot requirements been on the books?
Putting you on the spot.
I'm sorry?
How long have the current requirements for the setback?
Probably, I haven't researched it. The current UDC was, I think, 2010, but the 25-foot setbacks had probably been in effect for some time. But it does reflect the more, as we grow, an we move closer to a little bit more movement towards the front. It still allows for parking on the subject property, the 20-foot does, but it gives a little bit bigger backyards to the homeowners as well.
Else? This item is also subject to a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this item may do so. Please step to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Hello, Mr. Kaser.
Not too long. I'm Dan Kaser. I live on 1304 North First Street, and I think this is a good step in the right direction. And that it wasn't that long ago that they were still allowing that the 10-foot was still there. You know, some of the houses in 40 and 50s, and it doesn't create a safety concern. You know, that's still plenty far away from the corners, and then it'll allow a lot of those old corner lots in East Temple were 40-foot wide, and with that 15-foot setback from the corner, you really can't use them. So this will open up some of those lots to be built on. So anyway, I think it's a step in the right direction. And then too, with that shortening that front setback, then that's going to allow hopefully to where people can utilize those alleys for off-street parking to relieve some of the congestion out in the streets that we have now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Kaser. Anyone else? Mr. Lytle?
Yes, sir. You need my name and all that again?
I think so.
Okay.
I know who you are, but for the record.
Alan Lytle, 504B, Paseo del Plata. And I need to ask a question first. The setback is from the curb to the house or from the easement to the house?
The setback refers to from the property line to the front of the structure. So in some cases, the property line is fairly far setback already, depending on the width of the right-of-way. Sometimes they're close. It depends. It varies all over the city.
Because that was my concern, because like in my neighborhood, we have a 5-foot trail sidewalk in front of the house, and if you take away the other 5 feet from the driveway parking, then you only have 15 feet, and the car doesn't fit there. So, and we already have problems with people parking over the driveway. Right. But if that's from the property line, then I don't have a problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lytle. Anyone else? Okay, then at this time, I'll close the public hearing and accept a motion on item number 7.
Make a motion for approval for item 7 as presented.
Have a motion from Councilmember Morales, a second from Councilmember Long. Madam Secretary?
Councilmember Long?
Aye.
Councilmember Walker?
Aye.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Morales?
Aye.
Mayor Davis?
Aye. Item 8 is to consider adopting a resolution appointing Stephanie Hedrick as the interim secretary and setting compensation for the position. Ms. Meyer.
Council, with the recent retirement of our former city secretary, Lacey Borgeson, after 21 years of dedicated service to the city, we need an interim city secretary. So I am requesting that you consider appointing our deputy city secretary, Stephanie, to serve in the interim role as we begin the process to fill the position.
Thank you, Ms. Myers.
I did ask Stephanie if she was willing to do it.
This afternoon.
Basically.
No pressure.
Okay, council, any thoughts or comments before we move forward with that? All right, if not, then I'll accept a motion on item number 8.
I'll make a motion to approve item 8.
Second that motion.
We have a motion from Councilmember Walker, a second from Councilmember Long. Madam Interim Secretary?
Councilmember Long?
Aye.
Councilmember Walker?
Aye.
Councilmember Williams?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Morales?
Aye.
Mayor Davis?
Aye, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Okay, with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much for attending.
I think she typed applause. Didn't do the motion to adjourn.
Exactly. They love.